What's good? What's good? What's good? What's good, family? Hoping everyone is having a great start to their Saturday. Apologize for the late start on this Saturday. I had to switch some things over to a new platform. I'll talk a little bit about that and what all went down in reference to that. And of course, I'm going to be on a new platform every Saturday at 2 p.m. I'm going to try to hold this time slot at 2 p.m. Think it's important that I come on at this time during the day when I have the opportunity to. Even when I'm out mobile, I will still also be doing the live stream. We are live streaming on multiple platforms. We are doing this bigger and better than we were doing it before. Got a story to tell you. Most of y'all know that I was doing this show, You Can't Handle the Truth, brought to you by Urban City News and People Empowered by the Struggle. I'm going to go through a lot of that and kind of, do some housekeeping and kind of get you guys caught up really quick and then move on to the show because we have a hot show for you today. And again, want folks to just join in, chime in, tune in wherever you can. Um, let's start it off really quick. So, family, we are streaming on a new platform. We are streaming on 5 different services. You could find me on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Just look up the 24-hour tech on YouTube. We are on Instagram, True to Life. That's TrueDalife, True to Life on Instagram. I'm also streaming live on Urban City News on Facebook, and we're streaming live on the People Empowered by the Struggle Facebook page, and we are also linking up as well on Twitter or X or whatever the new platform that Elon Musk has changed Twitter to. We're also streaming live on there as well. But welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of You Can't Handle the Truth. Um, all the way down there, down on the bottom. Look in the box, all the way down on the bottom. No, look down. Look at them boxes on the floor. Over here. Right in this row over here. Y'all gotta pardon me, family. I'm in the studio. Somebody's asking me for a pair of headphones. I am at uh, uh, the site right now at Radio One Baltimore. But again, welcome to another episode of You Can't Handle the Truth, brought to you every Saturday at 2 p.m. Interesting story to tell you. So I was starting the show on WFBR. I was kind of locked into a 2 o'clock slot coming in on after Darren Muhammad. After Darren Muhammad would come on WFBR, and it's crazy because all of a sudden now the time is booked out, and there's no other times available. Obviously, I was getting to someone if possibly I am unable to um, go live on the radio anymore. And I got to thank my sponsors, which we will also be thanking our sponsors as well, because the sponsors are still here. Our sponsors are not going anywhere. And we definitely want to thank our sponsors and get you to tune in to our sponsors as well. Matter of fact, I'm going to pull up my sponsors information right now. But as you know, this is also being brought to you by People Empowered by the Struggle. We're a one-stop shop for all struggles. Doesn't matter what your issues may be, whether you're dealing with housing, whether you're dealing with domestic violence, whether you're dealing with I'm dealing with uh, homelessness, whatever your issues may be. We've even advocated for folks whose children have been being bullied in the schools, and the school system doesn't seem to be doing anything in reference to helping their children in the process. And you have to bear with me because I am on a new platform, and no, I am not using the typical uh, StreamYard. So folks that know me know that most of the time when I do things, I try to do things big and better. than most of the platforms out there. So I am not using StreamYard. I'm using a different platform. And matter of fact, folks, you will have the opportunity to join us as well if you'd like to this afternoon. And again, I'd love to hear from you. This is a two-way conversation. We're going to be talking about Baltimore. So much is going on in Baltimore, and I'm going to tell y'all some information that you're going to find criminal. Um, even more criminal than what just took place in reference to Marilyn Mosby and her trial. I'm going to drop some information in reference to Madam Mosby because for many of you that have this empathy and sympathy for Marilyn Mosby, don't cry for me, Argentina. That was a Broadway play. Where the lady said, "Don't cry for me, Argentina. Don't cry for me, Baltimore." Because when you hear some of the information that I share with you this afternoon, you may not want to be crying over her particular issues after what you learned what has taken place in Baltimore City in reference to her administration. I just got to call it out as it is. And for most of you, like the name of the title of the show, you can't handle the truth. So when I drop this information, for most of you, you're gonna be like, man, that's kind of messed up, man. You know, but it ain't messed up on my part. I'm not the one that's committed to crime against the people of Baltimore City. We really should be asking our dear sister, why is it that she decided to do what she did in reference to her administration and her office? We really need to ask that. And if you really know anything about me, I was never really in the support of Marilyn Mosby. Matter of fact, me and Michael Collins, her policy director, we went head to head many a times, and I'll tell you a little bit of story about that as well. But like I said, I want to, and bear with me because, like I said, I'm still learning some of this stuff here. So I want to thank, and it is a taste of soul. It is a taste of soul, a taste of soul. The Charm City, a taste of soul, family. If you can see that now on your screen, and let's see if I can get this to go widescreen here. I guess that's the widest I can get it to go. Let's see, maybe a different way to do it. There you go. Taste of Soul, family. Taste of Soul. Maybe I can get rid of the background. So again, y'all got to bear with me because I am messing with a new platform here. And messing with this new platform, I am still trying to understand how to navigate through a lot of the controls. Controls are similar to StreamYard, but a lot more can be done with the platform that I am working with. And I'm really excited to get some more things going with this platform. But um, uh, this is being brought by A Taste of Soul, which is an online business journal. It's a black business guide, digital black guide. What's interesting is they've done it in a magazine style. So if you're watching, you can actually turn the pages. It makes the little clicking noises. And of course, in the inside, it has all of the, it's almost like a publication, a magazine. And there's just so much resources in here. Um, uh, you have your black businesses are in here. Again, family, if you have the opportunity, please go out, support our sponsor. A taste of soul biz is the website. And again, they have all of the black business and restaurants, and we have to start, they say that you get in trouble if you use the word boycott. So we can't say boycott, but we have to choose to spend our dollars, conservatively, and purposely in our community, and nowhere else. But I just love this digital format that they have, this magazine format. And again, it has a listing almost kind of like our green book of today, um, in reference to just so many black businesses. If you want to purposely make sure that your dollars are being spent in our community and not in their community. And I'm really concentrating more on this more lately, especially since, I'm seeing all these restaurants, with all these, folks that are in there that ain't our people, ain't our folks, don't represent our interests. You don't see anybody else being hired in these businesses. Um, uh, so we have to really purposely spend our dollars in our community and keep our dollars circulating in our community. And then, of course, you have Black History, and it just talks about so many powerful leaders, that have graced our community and have fought for our community. Many of them have gone on to our ancestors, especially like B. Gaddy. And shout out to Miss Cynthia Brooks out there, who's continuing the legacy of her mother, and Parent Mitchell, and uh, Henry Parks. Um, who doesn't remember Henry Parks? Um, and the Park sausage family. More Park sausages, ma, please. Like, and as a kid growing up, that's all I ate was Parks. Didn't eat anything else. No other brand was brought into our home. But again, family, this is a great online publication, and they constantly keep it updated. And constantly add more Black businesses to it. And if you want to reach out to them, reach out to Charm City, A Taste of Soul. If you need to, if you'd like to have your business listed in this publication. And shout out to Lou Fields and their whole staff for doing just a great job at just making it easy for us. And it does work on the digital phone platform as well. So if you pull it up on your phone, you can actually swipe to the left, swipe to the right, and it'll turn the pages just like of a magazine. So just shout out for the great work that they are doing in reference to keeping our community just in touch with what's going on in reference to Black businesses. So, family, again, welcome to You Can't Handle the Truth. And so we're going to give you an hour of power. And we have just some great conversations and discussions, so much going on in the news in the city of Baltimore. And one more thing too. If you want to get in contact with people empowered by the struggle, we are a 24-hour operation. We don't take off for your birthday, my birthday, nor do we take off for Jesus' birthday. And if you need us for a reason, you might need some help in navigating through your struggles, whatever your struggles may be. And what's interesting is, a lot of people like to give us slack. I don't know why, they like to give us slack, because they say, like I had Brother Bubby, try to come at us one day because we're having conversations with Janet Abrams' office. And again, anytime that we are talking to these folks in the administration, we had conversations with Marilyn Mosby, and we're able to get, several people. One person actually came home in reference to being wrongfully incarcerated, and another person was in the process of the journey of, and there's another one that kind of got hemmed up, unfortunately, because of things, reconsiderations coming out of Ivan Bates' office. And we're still working on that issue as well to try to get this young man home, who has stated that he is innocent. And a lot of his information and witnesses and his whole story states that he's innocent. But we're working through the process of trying to get him home as well to his family. But we worked with Marilyn Mosby's office, and were able to get him pushed through. One gentleman was able to get pushed through and get reevaluated, his case reevaluated, and he was home. And then we're working on several other folks as well to try to get them home as well. So, and just because we work with these folks and we communicate with these folks, it doesn't mean that we have any special relationship with these folks. We are advocates. That's what we do. And a lot of times we are pushing, whatever the plight of these folks are, whatever their stories are, we're trying to get the system to understand who they are, what they are, who their families are, what their stories are. When we've advocated for McCullough Homes, and we had an opportunity, to be on a conference call with Janet Abrams, we didn't sugarcoat anything. This wasn't, hey, let's go out and have lunch together, and have a casual afternoon together. No, this was strict advocating for the people, the conditions, the inhumane conditions. I know in some cases we agitated some folks, but we still came in with respect. We articulated what the issues were. We were able to get the points across. We still don't think that they've gotten it 100%, but there was some motion that was able to get generated out of it. That they ended up going through and started to do the work or begin the work in transforming over 500 units at McCullough Homes. That was through our advocating. That was through our work. That was through us holding their feet to the fire. And anytime that we call them, we continue to hold their feet to the fire. So I don't want people to think that, oh, we have some sort of special relationship. No, you could do this too. And there's a way that you do things. You do things with the process. And you have to make sure that one, you go in there level-headed. Two, you go in there with the correct information. You just can't go in there with hearsay. You got to go in there with an investigation that you have done or that your organization has done, and continue, to fight a good fight with these people, because a lot of times they are not willing. Unfortunately, they are not willing to really work with you. So it's important that we continue to fight a good fight, and make sure that we're advocating for our people for humane conditions. Um, but for some reason, because uh, we make sure that we get a seat at a table, and a lot of times it's by force. A lot of times it's by continuing, to kind of push at these people and fight at these people in order to get the door or to get in the door. A lot of times we're fighting with these folks left and right. So we don't want to think that, um, that we're just going in there, and we're having a kumbaya, moment with these folks. That is not the case. I can tell you that that is not the case at all. Um, and like I said, we are constantly fighting with these folks. And I'm trying to see, how do we share here. I think all I got to do is share this link. So I'm going to pull this link up. And folks, if you want to join the conversation, if you want to join in this afternoon, again, I'd love to have you on as a guest co-host. If you want to come on this afternoon, I'm going to post the information right now. If you want to join in, all you got to do is click on that little link right there, and I will see you come in backstage. I believe the message went out. Let's see. I believe the message went out. I'm going to try it one more time. Yep, the message went out. So message went out to all the different platforms. And again, if you want to join us at any time, all you got to do is click on that link, and you will join in the studio, and we will get you on. I'd love to have you on as a co-guest host. But so much going on in the city. And like I said, whenever we have an opportunity, I always say this. She hates when I say this. You got the only person that I know of that's ever taken the mayor and putting the mayor in a headlock. How many people can say that they've actually went and messed up his little fro? Because some folks, don't get that opportunity. Most folks would be tased if they even approach the mayor like that. But again, we're not afraid to approach these people. We're not afraid to speak out and talk out in reference to these folks. When I was with the aerial surveillance program, and unfortunately, they were telling all these, propagandist lies in reference to the program. We went down there to one of the press conferences looking, to confront Brandon in reference to the lies that he was spewing to the community. And we were threatened, when we got back to the office, we were threatened to be locked up. We were told that if we reported back to any other press conference, that we would be locked up. Look, I ain't afraid of being locked up. I done been locked up for all kinds of other stuff. So, and I've been locked up for stuff that really and truly, was criminal, things that I shouldn't have been involved with, being involved in these streets, being a product of my environment. So why would I be, if I wasn't afraid then, I tell y'all this in a lot of my other live streams, I used to listen to that song from Beretta, the opening song from Beretta. He says, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. No, don't do it. So my whole mindset growing up was, if you out here and you doing something, unfortunately that's on you. And if you get caught up in the process of doing something, well, guess what? You're going to have to do the time. So if I wasn't afraid to do the time then, I'm definitely not afraid to do the time, over somebody trying to tell me that I can't speak out and use my constitutional rights, my First Amendment rights, to speak out in reference to an injustice. So, and if you can't stand up for something, in life, then they're going to force you to lay down And if we force you to lay down, who knows what they're going to do to you while you're laying down. So I ain't the lay down type person. So most folks that know me know that I ain't the lay down type person. But again, family, you could join us if you want to. I just posted the link. All you got to do is click on that link, and you will join me backstage, and I will bring you in, and we can continue to have a great conversation. And you could be my co-host this afternoon if you like, and join us on You Can't Handle the Truth. So let's get into this, family, because I know that folks are anticipating what I have to say in reference to the whole Mosby thing. And what's interesting is that there's folks, even my partner in the streets, Yolanda Pulley, has said, well, she changed the venue, to Greenbelt because she was hoping to get a not guilty verdict. And I said, no, I don't buy that because if you really know the demographics of Greenbelt, Greenbelt is very conservative. They're Dinos in name only. Most of them tend to be federal workers, and they work at places like NASA, and they work in D.C. and they're state workers, and some sort of white collar type of workers. They have a huge middle class in Greenbelt. And what technically I feel that Madam Mosby was doing in reference to moving it to Greenbelt, technically what she was trying to do was really to try to put it somewhere where the information can get out there correctly, where she could actually have a fair trial, an impartial trial. Here, it's going to be so hard to have an impartial trial. Even if you did get older folks and white folks to join in, a lot of folks didn't agree with her prosecuting of officers is concerned. Only really the progressive movement and some frontliners, folks from the streets, from the grassroots, a lot of those folks agreed with prosecuting those officers. But technically, whether you think so or not, there's a lot of folks within our community here in Baltimore City that really sympathize, empathize, and really, look at protecting law enforcement. They ain't part of that defund the police movement. And a lot of people that I spoke to ain't in support of that defund the police movement. So here, and some of the progressive policies that she's had, these progressives, folks that are progressives, most of these folks, they're not doing, their citizenry duty. I keep telling you about that. Aristotle said that, one of the greatest virtues, and I'm paraphrasing, one of the greatest virtues, in politics is to be a citizen and do your citizenry duties. Your citizenry duties is sitting on a jury, doing the things, voting, doing things like that. And, contrary to belief, a lot of those progressives, they're not doing jury duty. They're not getting into jury duty. So the most folks that you're going to get on the jury duty are not going to be people of our peers, like-minded folks that are going to go in there and protect her for the progressive policy person that she was, the progressive prosecutor that she was. Many of these folks going to go in there and unfortunately are going to be very biased, even though they may say, in an examination of being selected for the jury, they may say they're not biased, but for most of them, they're going to be biased here in Baltimore City. The ones that do serve jury duty, they tend to be older folks. A lot of times, too, they tend to be white folks, older black folks, older black women and men, and they ain't rocking with Marilyn Mosby. So in order for her to really have a more fair trial, it would have been best for her to have a change of venue, to have it move somewhere else, like Greenbelt. Now, even being out in Greenbelt, you're taking a chance, but I don't think that she was really looking for a not guilty verdict. I think, if anything, she was looking at putting out enough information that brought, reasonable doubt, that brought some questionable concerns that may have hung up the jury. And I think that more than anything, she was looking for a hung jury. There's no way in hell did you think that you were going to get off on this, especially with the forensic evidence person for the FBI, that had the recordings, of her, on the phone, trying to find out, how can I get at that money? I got to get this money. How can I get at this money? And those recordings were kind of damning. So this straight out, she was caught with her hands red. There's a lot of folks, and you seeing this across the country. You're seeing it even here in Baltimore. There's some folks that got wrapped up. These PPP loans. Going out there and getting involved, and people telling you, yeah, man, I get you a couple of grand, man. I get you 10 grand, 20 grand. I get you this, man. The government's just giving money away. No, you better have a legitimate reason as to why you are getting that money. And if you don't have a legitimate reason as to why you're getting that money, you should have stayed away from the PPP loans because, again, they were definitely going to make sure that they get at folks in reference to these PPP loans. And you see this happening. Unfortunately, you see that they did go after a lot of these folks in reference to those PPP loans. So, but, you know, uh, again, she was found yesterday, as we see, and I'll pull up the article. Um, with just give me a second as I type with my formerly blunt stained hands. Um, but yeah, it seemed like it didn't really take that long for it to happen. I know that around 4 o'clock, I still didn't hear anything, but it only took them a few hours from what I understand, the 6 hours, 6 7 hours to come to a decision. I think they were given their instructions at 8 o'clock in the morning. They went into deliberation, and then, uh, of course, she was found guilty. Let's see if I can pull this up. Give me a second here. So I got to make sure that I log us into the Baltimore Sun here. But yeah, so this argument that she uh, switched it down to Greenbelt to look for a not guilty plea. That's not the issue. There's no way in hell. Greenbelt is a whole different beast and a whole different animal. They are not liberal at all, and you are not going to pull nothing past uh, these folks, and you are not going to pull things past. You can't pull the wool over the eyes of these men and women in Greenbelt. That's just not happening. Not at all. Um, so bear with me while I'm logging in here. Um, But just for disclosure's sake, I was never really in support of Mosby. I wasn't. I campaigned for Russell Neverdon. I believed in Russell Neverdon. I was the one that was going on radio telling y'all that during Russell Neverdon's campaign run, how all of his talking points. Russell had a radio show before he had even announced. He had a radio show, and he was going on a radio show on WOLB, and he was basically talking about the roles and the duties. He was really doing an amazing job at educating the community, and just letting the community understand what it meant to be a prosecutor, and the roles and the duties between the courts, the police, and the prosecutors. I just thought that he just did a stellar job at um, just informing the community. There were talking points that I remember that he really kind of coined at the time. This was not something that was being discussed by other folks. And what I mean is that he was saying things like prosecutor is an administrator, an administrator of justice. That's what they do. And it's crazy because shortly afterwards, uh, Madam Mosby started saying the same things in her in her it's funny because she started saying the same things in reference to her campaign run. A lot of the talking points that Russell was talking about, she basically came out and then started to use that on her platform. And they got this saying back in the day. The rappers would say, that you're beat biting. She was definitely beat biting in this particular situation, very much so. So, but let's get into it. So it says here that former state's attorney Marilyn Mosby was convicted on Thursday of lying about suffering financial hardships during the coronavirus to take money from her retirement savings in order to buy a pair of properties in Florida worth $1 million. Now everybody keeps saying, "Oh, well, it was her money. It was her money," but no, you got to remember the way that the taxes are done. So if you take money out of your retirement fund, most of the time, there is a penalty to be paid. Now, what the federal government was doing at the time because of COVID, they were saying, "Look, it was like you can take money out. You can take money out if you want to, but there has to be a hardship in order for you to be able to defer the taxes that you would take out in reference to this money." So she didn't want to pay the taxes on the money. So she basically, told, basically while this grace period was there, that the federal government was allowing, and this was really for folks that may have had businesses that were failing, their job may have shut them down, and the only thing that they were able to really turn to, they might have used up all their comp times, their PTO time, their personal time, even sick time in some cases, because there was a lot of even city workers that were using up their sick time, unfortunately, and they were unable to, um, you know, um, use any other benefits, and you may have to dig into your retirement funds to sustain you while the government was shut down, while the city was shut down, while the state was shut down, while the country was shut down during COVID. So, but it says after deliberating for about 5 hours, it said about 5 hours. So I said about six. I was told it was about 6 hours. So after deliberating about 5 hours, the federal jury found Mosby guilty on 2 counts of perjury. Now, she still has a whole nother set of trials that she has to go through. And I'm not sure how all that is going to work out, especially with her being found guilty of this. Um, but it says that the jury's verdict means Mosby, who served 2 terms as Baltimore's chief prosecutor, faces up to 10 years of prison at sentencing, which has not been scheduled yet. Um, Though it's unlikely the judge would impose the maximum punishment for Mosby, the convictions all but ensures she will be stripped of her license. Now, I'm not exactly sure, and I told folks I don't think that she would be stripped of her license, and I'm not sure why everyone keeps thinking that maybe she will. I'm not sure. That's something that she would still have to go in front of the bar, and as far as I understood it, and maybe there's someone out there that's an attorney or someone that has a better understanding of it. She didn't do this while necessarily in an office capacity. So she didn't do this as a prosecutor and lie in reference to a trial or reference to the courts or reference to something in the process. So this wasn't done under her lawyer or under her bar uh, 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 license. It wasn't done under that. So I'm not exactly sure why she would be stripped of her license. Again, because most of the time when you're stripped of your license, because it's something that you did unethically as a lawyer. Now, I'm not sure if they're looking at it because she signed the documents or whatever have you. That kind of says, well, she understood the legal ramifications, and that holds her liable. But I always thought that again that you wouldn't necessarily be stripped of your license in something like this because this wasn't something you did in the courts. This is something. This is your own kind of personal business that you did do. Um, but they're saying that it's a possibility that she may end up losing her license. And in the court, Mosby looked at each juror as they filled in the room in Greenbelt. When the courtroom deputy announced the guilty verdict, her eyes began to blink more rapidly. Um, she said, "I'm blessed." Mosby said as she walked away from the courtroom. "I have nothing more to say." Um, Her defense lawyers declined to comment on the verdict. And it says that federal prosecutors haven't officially signaled whether they intend to proceed on the other related mortgage fraud charges of Mosby. It may, depending on whether or not the prosecutors feel, maybe there might be some jail time and some probation, and they may be satisfied with that, and may feel that anything else may delay her going to federal jail. Because again, she could still file an appeal in reference to this. There's still months down the road, in reference to sentencing and things like that, and the other cases, when the other cases would be scheduled, and there would be arguments whether or not that the sentencing, wouldn't begin until she finishes out these other trials. So there's things that may delay the processes and things like that. That the federal prosecutors may say, hey, well, if she's willing to accept this, and 2 years maybe, and X amount of years of probation, and and they, of course, they may go after her license as well. She may lose her license in process, and if the prosecutors feel satisfied with any negotiations or deals, they may just go ahead and just drop the other mortgage fraud charges and just go ahead and just, because again, the amount of time that she may get with that, along with this, you know, uh, maybe just they may be able to be satisfied again with just the sentencing of this one particular case, and don't have to spend any other money. Although the feds have, deep money, so they can throw money at prosecutions. Whereas the state, has a more limited budget. The feds, have a lot more resources, and could push this out and could just wait it out, and could open up this other trial, and just keep pushing on, and get both of those charges, get all that kind of put together as one sentencing. Um, I'm not sure. I think that they may end up negotiating. There may be some things that may go on in reference to negotiating, to try to move this forward. I think that Mosby's defense attorneys will probably try to negotiate something with the state, with the feds, I'm sorry, that will satisfy them, and even in some cases allow them to not go after the other cases and just drop the other cases, and look at the sentencing, and the time being served, and the probation afterwards and stuff, as satisfying the federal government. We'll have to see. It all really depends on on how aggressive these prosecutors are trying to be. A lot of things that may be taken in consideration. She's a mother. She has two beautiful daughters. Although she is in the process, I believe they're in the process of getting a divorce, and they're no longer together, the Mosbys. She still has a family, and there may be a little bit of empathy there in reference to sentencing is concerned, and even satisfying the sentencing in reference to the other cases. So we'll see. But I didn't think that for one moment that she was going to be found not guilty. And anything, like I said, moving it to Greenbelt, I thought if anything, there may be a hung juror, because there may be one juror or two that, if there was enough information that was put out, that may have thought differently. Um, but and then she was really in a quagmire, because again, she couldn't testify against, testify for herself. She couldn't give testimony because she knew that they were going to eat her up in reference to other allegations, including possibly tax fraud. So it was just, it made absolutely no sense for her to get on the stand and testify. But despite Maryland's cries of foul play by the prosecutor from the time of the indictment, rulings won by her defense lawyer ensured that she got a fair shake. And an attorney and former prosecutor who was not involved in the case stated this. Alberstein said that uh, specifically highlighted the defense bid to have the case move from Baltimore to Greenbelt, and to have her mortgage fraud charges severed from the perjury counts, which again, she was granted all that. And Alberstein is saying that she got a fair trial, and unless something were to overturn on the appeal, she has been found guilty, and the justice system has played its process. So, again, she was found guilty, and I'm sorry. Like, you have all these folks, from Daryl D'Souza, Catherine Pugh, I hate to say it, Sheila Dixon, Nathaniel Oakes. I mean, like, it goes on and on and on and on and on. Um, shoot, and then in some cases is the sheer cockiness of some of these folks, and it's some of the other crimes or some of the other things that they've done in the process that sometimes has come to light, and sometimes things haven't come to light. And I'll give you a prime example of that. Um, even like with Cheryl Glenn and the arrogance of Cheryl Glenn, when she was asked, they were, how do you get a bill, put into Annapolis, and she said, well, you got to know God, or Jesus Christ or something like that, she said, and you got to know Delegate Cheryl Glenn, like, just the sheer arrogance, like, and then there's stuff that y'all don't even know that have been shared to me that to me just really shows the sheer bitterness of some folks that are supposed to be our elected officials that are supposed to be doing the business of the people. And I'll give you a prime example. So a lot of folks don't know this, and I'm going to put it out there, you know, and I'm going to say it's alleged for protection's sake. But again, these are reliable sources. This came from multiple sources that have, kind of informed me and have kind of told me. And this is not just from one, or this is from a group of people. This is at least, I've heard this story from at least maybe 6 folks within the community that directly know what went on in the prosecutor's office. So after the election was over with and the people had spoken and had decided to bring Ivan Bates in, State's Attorney Ivan Bates into office, well, you had a very bitter person that lost the election. And unfortunately, instead of it being a smooth transition, and to me, this is a problem. To me, the state's AG's office needs to be involved in this. The state attorney general's office needs to be involved in this. Because in some cases, this has set Baltimore back in reference to prosecutions is concerned. But from what we understand and the information that was shared to me was that basically they threw a grenade inside the state's attorney's office and totally destroyed the state's attorney's office so that there wasn't a smooth transition going into the next administration. Whether you lost or not, you bow out gracefully. I lost. I make sure that the people's work, I make sure that the work of the people continue to be done, and I make sure that there's a smooth transition. But there wasn't. There was a bitterness in reference to the loss of the election. Now, I'd have a greater respect and maybe even a greater empathy for what has taken place with Marilyn Mosby if I didn't find out that she did something like this in reference to our city. See, I can't show empathy for people that go out there and carry out arrogance or become destructive to the community or do things to the community that harms the community, that harms families, that harms lives, that harms or gets in the way or interferes with justice being applied. I really have problems with that. So I can't really jump on the bandwagon of most of y'all and say, yeah, our dear sister this, our dear sister that. No, our dear sister really and truly, got angry. And our dear sister, unfortunately, sabotaged the state's attorney's office. And I know that some of y'all out there know this. Y'all know this information. Y'all know, some of y'all already know this information. Some of y'all don't. But many of y'all that are jumping on the Marilyn, Mosby, camp, or have always been there, die hard from the beginning. You can't have somebody that's doing something that is destructive to the community and say, I'm going to stand by this sister. I'm going to stand by. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. At the end of the day, either you stand for justice or you stand against it. What did Dr. King say? And a justice anywhere. So in this particular situation, you have an injustice that was done to the people of Baltimore City. That office was sabotaged. That office did not have a smooth transition from Marilyn Mosby's administration to Ivan Bates' administration. Everything from the phones being shut off. Everything from the budget being deleted. Computers being wiped out. Basically, that office was left an empty shell. And when Ivan and them got into that office thinking that they're going to pick up on the work that needs to be picked up, they immediately had to go into triage mode and bring the state's attorney's office back to life. There was no smooth transition. There was a big transition that took place. And y'all want to have respect for who? Again, I'd have a lot more respect for our dear sister. And I work with our dear sister. I communicated with her. I told you I constantly got at Michael Collins, her policy director, in reference to the policies. Me and him used to go back and forth all the time in reference to policies. Funny gentleman, by the way, has a huge Scottish accent. I don't think that he's necessarily from here, as heavy as his Scottish accent is. He reminded me of Scotty, from Star Trek. Captain Kirk, Captain Kirk, Captain Kirk. You know, you know, Pay me up, Scotty. You know, okay, Captain Kirk, I'll bring you up right now. He had that real deep, heavy Scottish accent. And me and him used to go at it all the time. And I would try to keep from laughing because, again, all I kept picturing was Scotty, on Star Trek. The Tariterium crystals are not working, Captain. I just kept thinking of Scotty all the time. And me and Michael Collins used to get into it all the time because, our organization had an opportunity, to just assess what was going on in the Garrison corridor in reference to the prostitution that was increasing on the Garrison corridor. What we found was, of course, we already know the dynamics. I know the dynamics from being out in the streets, hustling in the streets for years. That many of these women that are out there, they're not out there. This is not, the Bunny Ranch in Nevada. This is not, this is not, unfortunately, the red light district in Amsterdam. This is not the red light district in Amsterdam. These women are out there. They're basically crack whores. They're basically drug addict whores. They're not out there. This is not a licensed industry. These women that are out there, that were out there on Garrison, were out there out of pure desperation. Many of them were being sexually trafficked. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Many of them were being sexually trafficked. And Marilyn Mosby had this progressive policy that we weren't going to, prosecute certain quality of life, what they call quality of life crimes. So things like prostitution, urination, loitering, smoking marijuana out in public, things like that weren't going to be prosecuted. So one of the things that she wasn't going to prosecute was prostitution. And we saw an increase in prostitution on the Garrison corridor. And one of the things that we noticed was that there was a group of young ladies that were out there that had children that technically needed resources, that they were only out there prostituting. They were only out there because they needed to get money for formula and to take care of their children and be able to pay their rents, especially when COVID and everything shut down. And so I called Michael Collins in them office, called Marilyn Mosby's office, trying to find some resources, trying to find some alternative, trying to understand, why aren't we're the outreach workers down here, on Garrison, working with these young ladies, working with the drug addiction. Where is there a unit that's down there looking at human trafficking, trying to address and identify human trafficking on the Garrison Boulevard, corridor, and making sure that people aren't being, that people are not preying on women, and using them as sex pawns, out there on Garrison. And Michael Collins said, "Oh well, we have 4 outreach companies or 4 outreach organizations out there. Give them a call." And he gave me a call. He gave me a list of 4 names, 4 different organizations. One of those organizations was an LGBTQ organization. The other 3 were just regular, sexual trafficking. They call themselves, working with women that are in prostitution. And so I called all 3 of them to try to see if I could get these women some resources and to make sure that there's some advocates down there that are making sure that we're not, perpetrating, human trafficking. And I'll never forget it. So the first 3 organizations I called, all 3 of those organizations were like, well, what's wrong with sex work? That's the oldest profession in the world. That's the oldest profession in history. Women have been selling their bodies since the beginning of time. whether for food, for money, for shelter. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I'm looking for organizations that are going to say, no, we shouldn't be putting women out there like this. And again, as I had to explain to all three of those organizations, this is not the bunny ranch. This is not Nevada. This is not a licensed industry. This is not Amsterdam. This is not the red light district. I don't agree with your take on this, that these women are out there because they're desperate. These women are out there because they have mental issues. Women are out there because they've been sexually assaulted. There's women out there that are being human trafficked, trafficked. We need to get people out there and help these women. And they're like, oh, no, this is the oldest business in the world, oldest institution in the world. No, we don't see a problem with it. I'm sorry, sir. We can't help you. If anything, we can go down there and support them, give out some condoms, give them some housing, so they can continue to do the work that they do. And I'm like, I'm confused at this point because I'm like, I don't agree with these progressive policies. I think you progressives suck. And I really think that the progressive policies suck. I'm definitely in favor of, going after the systematic and systemic issues within our community. I have no issue with that. I definitely agree with that. I know we know what bigotry and racism and what white supremacy and what Jim Crow and all these different, particular mindsets have done in reference to the destruction of black and brown communities and poor white communities in America. We know that. It's historical. It's documented. But at the same time, there's things that we just cannot just make excuses for. We can't make excuses for, point blank, period. And so I'm thinking, well, maybe this last organization, because we do have some transsexuals, some transgenders down here on the Garrison Boulevard. Maybe this last organization, getting in contact with them, having a conversation with them, maybe they will get it and they will understand it. So let me hit them up and see what their point of view is. And so I explain who I am. I explain I'm trying to get some resources down to the Garrison corridor, that you have a few transgender, folks that are down here selling their bodies down in it and down on the Garrison Strip. And they go, well, what's wrong with that? Prostitution is the oldest business, the oldest institution, in history, since the beginning of time. I'm like, so here's even the LGBTQ. So 4 organizations that I was referred to by Marilyn Mosby's office, all 4 of them were pro-sexual work. And again, this is not, that type of sexual work. This is predatory sexual work. These folks that are out there, in many cases, are out there out of desperation. And this is not a licensed industry, with especially in those 2 corridors, the 2107, the 21215, because you got Park Heights right there. Like these neighborhoods are known for having the largest amount of STDs and HIV related cases in the city. And now you're perpetuating sex work of desperate people. Some of these white folks that are out there that are selling their bodies, look like, zombies, look like Walking Dead, look like you would be having sex with one of the zombies on The Walking Dead. They look so bad and terrible and have sores all over their faces and bodies. So what are we saying? Like, when we can't, and then not only that, as I explained to Michael Collins, it's the quality of life of those homeowners in that community, the people that have made the sacrifices to buy their homes, to buy into a neighborhood. And they got to deal with, their alleys filled with condoms, or coming out of their backyard and seeing, someone getting fellatio or having sex, outside of their car, in the backyard, in the alleyways of their homes. Like how is that? What about the quality? You're talking about the quality of life in reference to street workers, to sexual workers, but what about the quality of life of those families and those children in the process? And so I really had a problem with some of these progressive policies. But again, so I constantly stayed in communication, with Marilyn Mosby's office in reference to just trying to get at the resources and just trying to really fine tune some of these policies. Because another thing that I used to get, in Michael Collins' throat about was the fact that, I can't even take my grandbabies sometime to some of these businesses. I live in this city, and you can't even take the grandbabies, to a corner store to go get, a Freezy Pop or an ice cream or a bag of chips, because you have people, congregating in the vestibules of these businesses, basically smoking weed, and smoking loud, smoking that dank smell of weed, like not even something that's sweet smelling or, something that sticky, icky, good smelling stuff. They're smelling really they're smoking really that dank stuff that really and truly just smells just terrible. Gets all in your clothes. I don't want my grandchildren or anybody else's children that lives in that community that's the only corner store for miles within that from walking distance of their home. Like, I don't want any other citizen in the city to have to go through that. If you want to go smoke, go home and smoke. Go smoke in your mama's basement. Go smoke in your grandmama's basement. Go smoke in the yard, the backyard. If you can't smoke in the house, go smoke in the backyard of your mama's house. But when you're bringing it to the businesses and the corridors of our community, now I have a problem. And I'm a former smoker myself. But I took my ass home. I smoked at home. I had the opportunity to smoke at home because I paid the bills. I paid the cost to be the boss. So I can smoke, work, and go home. You're not going to find me smoking in the vestibule of a business. To me, that's the most and I don't even know where we even accept that as a policy to say, oh, that's acceptable in society. We can go ahead and allow people to do that, and F you and your family that wants to patronize these businesses that may want to do something as simple as get an ice cream cone or a freezy pop or a bag of chips or a little juice, Huggies juice for your children. You can't do that when people are occupying businesses in our community. So I have a problem with that. And I used to get on Michael Collins' nerves in reference to that, in reference to just enforcing that. And he would say, oh, well, there are laws against that. When we're talking about loitering, we're just talking about the average person that's just standing out there. That person shouldn't be interfered with. That they have a constitutional right to exist and to be. And I said, I get it. I don't want nobody harassing me either if I'm not doing something. But if I'm in a vestibule of a business, the entranceway of a business, and all I'm doing is rolling up, and occupying the space and not allowing the pedestrian flow, to flow smoothly and allow people to move safely without having to engage in that stuff. Like, to me, that is a problem in policy and that needs to be enforced. And he kept saying, oh, that is enforced. We have conversations with Michael Harrison, and we talk to Michael Harrison at least once or twice a week in reference to these policies. I said, okay, well, you need to be emphasizing to Police Commissioner Michael Harrison that these vestibules need to be cleared, especially if there's, smoking weed in the vestibules. I was in a business one time, and they were inside, they were using the lottery table in there, that you sit there and you fill out your lottery cards, you fill out your Powerball, and your Mega Millions. They were using that to crush up their weed, break open the blunts, roll the blunts up, had the blunts sitting there drying. And I'm like, and then I'm thinking that would be the worst of it. No, the worst of it was when two officers came in doing a business check. They had everything, the bag of weed, the blunts rolled out. They were in the process of rolling a blunt. Matter of fact, the dude stopped he went, and the police came in. He was like, and then he went, and continued to roll it up. And the police came in, signed the book, signed the business checkbook, and then rolled out. And I was like, what the hell is going on in this city? That we can't enforce just that's a quality of life issue. And this is the type of policies that was implemented during Marilyn Mosby. I have no empathy. Because what you see was a direct reflection of what was going on in the prosecutor's office and what was going on with Police Commissioner Harrison. They work hand to hand together. And now people have become comfortable and complacent, and now you can't get people to move out the corridors. Now you have every business occupied. Whether I want to go get a Subway sub on Northern Parkway and Righteoustown Road, I can't get a sub at a damn Subway shop because it's occupied. And I don't have a problem with it. I walk in there anyway. But my partner in crime, she refuses to go in there. She don't want to be around that environment. She don't want to be around all that activity. Because when somebody comes at one of them, innocent bystanders easily can become a victim of circumstances. But it's every chicken spot, every carry out, every little wall hole in the wall mart, all occupied. All of these particular businesses are being occupied, and nothing seems to be being done in reference to this. All kinds of selling. You go in there, you are being offered all kinds of stuff, from pills to weed to drugs to dope. How is that? I'm just trying to understand. How is that any type of quality of life in our communities when our communities are being occupied? Doesn't matter what business you go to. And so I don't have no empathy in reference to Marilyn Mosby. Good riddance. Good riddance. Y'all want to have empathy for her? Have empathy for her. Y'all want to go write a card to her when she's down there in federal prison? Write a card to her. I didn't write a card to Pew because it was good riddance. The damage that she's done in reference to the political process here in this city is going to last a lifetime, at least my lifetime. And we're still trying to get people to understand that this is not how politics has to be. That you have a choice. That there's somebody else out there that could better represent our community if given the chance. Someone that ain't going to be bought and sold. Someone that's going to do the right thing every time. Someone that comes from a revolutionary upbringing. Her father was a Black Panther. Her mother was an extraordinary poet. But for some reason, y'all think that I just come on here just to talk. I'm coming on here to show y'all examples of where people continue to do things that are destructive and harmful to our community. If I could sit there and atone for my sins and come to you and confess my sins and tell you straight up that, I shouldn't have been involved in this and that I have to atone, I have to make right, I have to go out there and be the change, then these people that are representing us in these offices have to also hold themselves to a high standard. For many of them, they're not holding themselves to a high standard. They're not. For many of them, they're criminal in their behavior, and their own personal behavior, and in their own lives. How many people have heard of all the different affairs and stuff going on with the Mosbys and all? Who cares? I just want the people's business to be done. Are you prosecuting people that need to be prosecuted? Are you enforcing policies that need to be enforced? Are you making sure that the quality of life of our community is okay? I could care less about your personal life. And if you do something, though, in your personal life that is unethical and you do something that's criminal, then that's on you. You have to face those charges. That's on you. And to sit there and make it seem like the system, is going after a sister. The system is being wrong. The system is doing us wrong. Look at how they do us. No, we shouldn't do wrong. Then we ain't got to worry about the system. We ain't got to worry about the system. Because at the end of the day, when you look at it in black and white, she broke the law. Period. It's no different if I break the law. I know I broke the law. I know I broke the law. And I'm not going to sit there and hide behind the fact that, this is a wrongful prosecution and blah, 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 when you know exactly what you did. And then to hear, maybe next time I'll take the opportunity. I really don't want to waste. I only wanted to just do this one episode in reference to this. And on this episode of You Can't Handle the Truth, I only want to just really do just this one episode of it. I really don't want to keep expounding on it because that's on her. She now has to face the actions of her crime. She has to go face that. And I wish her well, Godspeed. May she be able to come home and find, some footing and some grounding somewhere. I'm pretty sure that somebody will make sure she's all right, just like people are making sure that Pew's all right, just like, the Maryland, what is it? Minority Contractors Association picked up Sheila. I'm pretty sure there's somebody out there that's going to see her worth. Like I said, don't cry for me, Argentina. Don't cry for me. Because at the end of the day, there's going to be somebody. She's going to be all right. Trust me. She's going to be good. Even if she go back to Boston, she's going to be good. But the legacy that she's left in reference to that administration at the office is still being felt to this day. They're still going through it to this day. Ivan and them are still picking up the pieces of just the ramshacking that she did in reference to leaving that office in the state of affairs that she did. Instead of just bowing out gracefully, conceding gracefully, and just turning around and saying, hey, it was what it was. The people have spoken. And at this point, hey, let me make sure that the work of the people continues to get done. That families that are waiting for justice are getting that justice served. But when you shut off phones and delete the budgets and and wipe out the computers, and there's no transition team, and you do absolutely nothing to protect and preserve the state's attorney's office because of your bitterness. Come on now. Come on now. Who's wrong? Am I wrong? Am I wrong? As these white folks that you're claiming that were part of the federal prosecutors that went after Marilyn Mosby, are they wrong? See, we want to say everybody else is wrong. Everybody else is wrong. You want to point the finger at everybody else. But what our dear sister should be doing is just pointing the finger at her and saying, you know what? I wasn't the human being that I should have been. I wasn't the person that I should have been to the people. And I always say karma is a mother. Like y'all keep thinking it's a joke. Karma is a mother. When you do certain things a certain way, karma has a certain way of biting you. Karma has a certain way of coming back, especially when it involves a large group. And we're talking about the whole city of Baltimore was affected by her policies, by her administration. All of Baltimore. When you throw a grenade in the room and you ramshack things and you don't make sure that things are a smooth transition. And what's crazy is that most folks usually try to do that. That's just a respectable thing to do in any type of politics. You lose, you concede, and you make sure that there's a transition team. And the transition team picks up, they get notified as to what's going on, what the pressing issues are, and the office that you're coming in to serve. And in some cases, some people are left over. Some people stay over in the process. And those people continue to help with the transition for a few months. And then they go off and do whatever it is they're going to do in the process. And when there's a smooth transition like that, the work of the people continue to get done. You don't worry about there's hiccups in the road. There's hiccups in the system that prevents things like justice from being served, or like the city and its workings and its institutions and its departments from working, from projects moving forward to policy being implemented. But to me, this is the worst type. I'm sorry, this is the worst type of governance that I've seen out of any city. And I come from New York City originally. And New York City has had some bad ones. New York City's had some bad ones, some real self-fulfilling people. But here, it's even worse. People with just filled with self-desires and self-fulfilling and, trying to, facilitate their lives and, and using their offices inappropriately and then, destroying everything, a destructive pathway. Like, and then to see y'all, sometimes I get sick to my stomach sometimes because to see some of y'all in the way that y'all position yourself and position yourself, in reference to these folks that are criminal. I was flabbergasted when I went to the Fox 45 town hall, the contrived Sheila Dixon Fox 45 David Smith town hall. When I was just flabbergasted. And if we should be casting stones, any other country would be taking their slippers off, would be throwing their slippers at these politicians in disgrace, would be with the torches and the stones, just ready to cast these people out of their community. And when I went there and I said, y'all are up here listening to Sheila Dixon talking about, what she did in the past and what she did. But I mean, let's be reminded, 2007, when she came into office, you have the Gun Trace Task Force. You had DDU. You had more crimes being committed in the police department than ever before. I was there during the time. I met Sheila because I was on my way to State's Attorney Patricia Jessamy's office, down to an office that she had at the time, ran by Anthony Williams at the time, called the Office of Police Misconduct. Over two officers, Officers Serena Green and Sergeant Darrell Murphy, who violated our constitutional rights, acted under the color of law, came into our home, no warrant, no probable cause, no reasonable suspicion, invaded our home, and then wrongfully locked us up in the process. We were vindicated. But I met Sheila in the elevator coming from her trial, coming from her prosecution. And she still had another whole case to go that really would have opened up even more of a can of worms if they would have moved forward. This wasn't just about gift cards. This is about these people in their self-fulfilling ways. These are about people that have power, and with that power comes great responsibility. And why is it as black and brown people, we can't get into these offices, we can't get into these administrations and act right? Do what's right by the people. Make the right decisions. Not be the bedfellows of people. Not do the biddings of special interest groups. Why is it that every one of our black politicians have to be bought off by millionaires and billionaires while the people continue to suffer? Oh, and I haven't gotten on Brandon yet about this downtown rise nonsense. While uptown, continues, to fall. You got this downtown rise, but uptown continues to fall. And this whole downtown partnership and these organizations that are downtown that continue to just keep pushing money downtown, don't they have enough? Harbor East, Harbor West, Canton, Fells Point, Federal Hill, don't they have enough? Port Covington or Port Peninsula or whatever the hell you want to call it. And now they're giving praises about wanting to swim in the harbor. If I dropped $100 bill in the harbor, I would let that $100 bill go. I would let that heart. Ain't no way in hell you gonna get me to jump in no damn water. You know which people are gonna be down there in their little swim outfits, looking like Donald Schaefer when Donald Schaefer had that little rubber ducky float and he had that outfit on, that old style swimming with the stripes, the red striped swimming trunks, one of them old fashioned swimming trunks. You know what group's gonna be out there jumping in that water? Ain't gonna be us. We know better. You're talking about how clean the harbor is, but you got Drew Hill Lake Drive and the reservoirs poisoned. Poison. You got to boil your water in your home. You can't drink the water in your home. It's barely enough safe to even bathe with. And they talking about, but you can jump in the harbor, though. You can swim in the harbor. You can have a good time in the harbor. We got to stop this. Billions of dollars have gone in reference to financing in lieu of financing in lieu of taxes downtown. Billions of dollars, not millions, billions, have been given away. Starting with John Pakarakis and the millions he's gotten. Exelon and the hundreds of millions that they've gotten. All these different organizations, all these different projects, all these different things coming online downtown. All these projects down in the Canton area. They've gotten millions of dollars in lieu of taxes. And when we're wondering why there's not enough money in the coffers to take care of things like public safety, when there's not enough money in the coffers to take care of the communities, to fix our sidewalks and our potholes, it's because for 25 years or more, many of these corporations have a break where they pay nothing in property taxes. And property taxes is where your main coffers, is where your main money comes into the coffers of Baltimore City. And while they're taking your home for a water bill, while they're coming after you for high property taxes, while they continue to put the responsibility, the financial responsibilities on the taxpayers of Baltimore City, they're giving away the city to millionaires and billionaires. And many a time, these millionaires and billionaires have black faces on their boards representing these organizations. They ain't our kin. They ain't our kin. I had the nerve to have that hearing the other day, and I saw some of the clippings, and some of the folks from the community shared some of the clippings in reference to this whole project that's supposed to be putting out in reference to the harbor. This ugly, atrocious, what's the word? Monstrositous. What's the word I'm looking for? I mean, it's just a big piece of junk. It doesn't even fit the aesthetics of even the harbor. Not in an architectural kind of continuity. There's no fluidness in it. It's this weird looking. So they call it the sale, and then you got they're going to have a residential building, and then they're talking about they need $400 million to basically transform Pratt Street and Light Street and get all of this to kind of work together in the process. All that has to be redesigned. Man, if you don't get the hell out of here with that, more than billions of dollars are being allocated to downtown in reference to this Baltimore Rise thing. I don't know if y'all seen that or not. I don't know if y'all had an opportunity to see that or not. I suggest you get at least a digital subscription to the Baltimore Sun and at least keep up with what's going on in reference to downtown, in reference to what's going on around town, or at least to the Baltimore Banner, and make sure that you get a subscription to one of these particular publications, so at least know what's going on. Or in some cases, make sure you support things like You Can't Handle the Truth. And then we can keep coming strong, keep coming long, and be able to keep talking about these issues that are affecting our community. They are affecting our community. These policies of Marilyn Mosby affected our community and the quality of life of our community. These folks that are getting these pilots and TIFs, it's affecting the quality of life of Uptown. And they're thinking that you should be satisfied. They're thinking that you should be satisfied in the process because you might have jobs. And that was the whole theory behind Schaefer and his whole theory in believing. Oh yeah, we're going to make this a tourist and hospitality town. And basically the only thing that we really get in the process is we become the help. We become the help, turning down beds, valeting, and we may not have valet jobs soon because you know what happened recently. They had a valet that was stealing cars. Downtown. We can't get control of nothing in this city. Over 700 plus some odd car stealings in the city. Oh, I'm sorry, it might be 7,000 cars stealing in the city. Insurance rates are going up. In some cases, they won't even insure Hyundais and Kias. That's a whole nother story. But I want to share this article real quick with you. Put this in perspective here so we can see a little better here. So it says that Mayor Brandon Scott announced plans Thursday evening for a blueprint for downtown growth. Now, I'm sitting there, like when I heard this, I thought I was being punked. I really did. I thought that there was a joke somewhere. I thought I was, in some cases, I had deja vu. Like I flipped back in time and said, damn, where have I heard all this downtown, growth, downtown renaissance, the blueprint, the redesigning, I don't know how many times this thing has been called different programs. The development of Harbor East, the development of Harbor West. But Thursday evening, he announces a blueprint for the downtown growth that aims to add more residents and businesses. Like we don't have enough stuff downtown already. Improve safety, cleanliness, and pedestrian access, and attract arts and entertainment. And it says here, Downtown Rise, Baltimore's downtown action, will help chart the next chapter of downtown, said Scott. Scott announced an initial set of actions to enhance downtown atmosphere while removing graffiti, fixing potholes, and brightening spaces with lighting and murals during the Downtown Partnership's annual meeting on Thursday. Meanwhile, you don't get nothing uptown. Where's the action plan for uptown? Where's the action plan? Where's the fixing of? I got a pothole that I ride up almost every day in Forest Park. And they keep basically cheesing the fix of the pothole that every time, maybe 2 or 3 months go by, the pothole is back and expanded again. When are we going to fix those potholes? When are we going to fix those potholes? Our streets are deplorable. Our sidewalks are deplorable. Graffiti everywhere. And here it is, we're worried about downtown again. and continuing to put money downtown. And from what I understand, there's a lot of money involved in this. It's like billions of dollars worth of money that's coming in. It says Scott previewed an announcement in an op-ed in the Baltimore Sun on Thursday, saying a project team would introduce strategies and initiatives to revitalize the downtown core within weeks. Now, what's interesting is that this downtown area has had so much revitalization, renaissance, and all kinds of stuff has gone on downtown. Like you've had new hotels built. You have the proposed the remodeling of the convention center. I mean, not the convention center, the former Baltimore Arena. So it says that a group will gather feedback from residents and other stakeholders as well, and release a comprehensive plan by early next year. It says Baltimore, we are posed to have it says Baltimore, we are posed to have the comeback of our generation. What do we mean the comeback of our generation? And first of all, hospitality and tourism is down all over. People don't want to come to Baltimore because Baltimore is so considered to be crime ridden. So I'm trying to understand something. Like if and I think we don't understand this. We want to work from the top up and think that's that trickle down economics nonsense. That's that stuff that Ronald Reagan. These are black folks that have Ronald Reagan tendencies inside of them. That's that trickle down economy shit. If you do something now in reference to the economy for downtown or places like that, the rich, the billionaires, the wealthy, the middle class, you do all these things down in those areas, and that everything else economically will trickle down. That's what their hopes and their belief is. And then where do you see the true stakeholding of the black community in reference to these partnerships and these initiatives? Just a couple of years ago, you had to have Brandon Scott that had to purposely force the downtown area to really kind of be more equitable in reference to black businesses in that area. So now there's actually, there was a designated off area where black businesses were and in many cases, they were being subsidized. The rents are being subsidized. The area is being subsidized to make accommodation for these black businesses to come into these communities, because you're talking about prime downtown real estate. It's not cheap. So, but even going back to Donald Schaefer, when have you seen really and truly the incorporation of black business, of black entrepreneurship when it came to the Inner Harbor? When most of these projects were coming online and being developed downtown, how many black businesses, other than maybe a Shirley's Cafe, how many, and really and truly, there's questions in reference to, who have these franchises. A lot of folks are saying that, these so-called staple, black businesses like a Miss Shirley's or something like that, really and truly, has white financial backers in the process. And these franchisers or these folks that are involved in these processes are not really truly representative or representing black businesses. They don't have a lot of black employees down there. Look at the one over there in Hamden, over there on Cold Spring Lane. I've been in there a few times, But where did you see with Schaefer's administration, with Smoke's administration, with any of these folks that came in that were expanding out the downtown area, that were expanding out Canton, that were doing things in Fells Point or in any of these communities? Where did you see the true incorporation of black businesses? And even when you do have, we see what happens to reality TV stars that come in and what ends up happening to their businesses. And even in some cases, former NFL players, like Ray Lewis, that came into Little Italy, to open up a business in Little Italy. How long did that last? How long did that venture last? Most of those black businesses are gone. They come in and they as soon as they come in, they don't get supported by the majority of the folks that are in those communities, which happen to be more white middle class and more, rich white folks, white educated folks that are in those communities. Many folks in the tech sector. But where do you see, an area that's truly incorporates black entrepreneurship, black businesses? And like Darren Muhammad said earlier today, Darren Muhammad made it clear to say, hey, even if you do get involved in something downtown, you don't own the brick. And that's one thing that our brother Terrence Dixon from Terra Cafe, who owns his brick, keeps warning us about. That you're going into a lot of these businesses and you're making other people rich in the process because you don't own the brick. But when in any of this development downtown did we get a partnership going on? Like, why couldn't we took that downtown location where they want to build the sale at and maybe possibly do something where it was a joint venture between many black businesses and each one of them gets their own particular space, but they're in a co-op. They're like in a condo kind of ownership circumstance, but in reference to business, a co-op where everybody is bought into and everybody owns that space. Where do you see folks incorporating us like that? Other than incorporating these millionaire companies, and in many cases, I told you these black companies, because the company that wants to build the sale, although they have a black person as one of their co-founders, they also have several other folks that one's a co-founder and one's operational manager or whatever have you he is. And I said this the other day on our show on Frontline News. And if you get a chance, make sure you check us out. Look up Frontline News every Monday at 6 p.m. on Donnie Glover's network on blackusa.news. And we talked about it. We talked about it then, how the folks that are on the board, there's two representatives that are black in this company. And the one, of course, is a figurehead. He's the one that you see at all the meetings. So he's making you think that this is a black company. No, he's a co-founder. In a lot of cases, what I have learned and found in the past is that they bring people on like white women, black men to be partners in these companies. And whether it's real estate, whether it's construction, whether it's contracting, whether it's whatever, only to be the face of the MBE, only to be the person in compliance with the MBE so that they can go after minority contracts. So they go after contracts that have been designated for minority businesses. So, this is another one of those businesses. Go look up the company that's involved in the sale and you'll see. Go look at their board. I always look at people's boards. I always look at who the people and what their authority is in those companies and whether or not these folks are figureheads or not. And in many cases, this guy that's going around, that's talking all this stuff in reference to, their plans and their proposals in reference to the sale coming to Harbor Place to the inner harbor. Most of these folks are just face only. And of course, they're getting paid lucratively, lucratively. They're getting paid very lucrative in reference to the money that they're getting being a part of these companies. But they're really and truly just a black figurehead. They really are. That's what they're really being paid for, is to be that black face, to be that black figurehead, to make it seem like they're inclusive, to make it seem like they're equitable. But they're really not. Ask that company how many, and I got to ask these folks these questions, because when people make it seem like they are representing us and they have our faces involved in these organizations, the first thing I do is say, well, how many of us did you uplift? That's why I keep asking that question in reference to Bob Wallace's organization. Now, he may turn around and try to do something like this before the election comes up because I'm talking about it. And I'm talking about it nonstop. But I want to know how many Pookies, Tyrones, Ray-Rays, Man-Mans, how many of those has he taken? How many of the squeegee boys has he taken? How many of these troubled youth and troubled individuals in the community has he taken and helped to become a millionaire? To help, since there's all this money that's available in the tech community, and millionaires are being developed and groomed and blossoming in the tech community. How many people has Bob Wallace actually taken from out of Cherry Hill, where he was born at, his old high school? How many of these particular folks has he gone out there and helped and pushed them into a pathway of technology that's allowed them to thrive in reference to technology? How many of them has he done that to? That's all I want to know. If he's done that, then by all means, hey, if he's done that, then so I just want to know that. I want to know how many of these folks has he helped to facilitate and push them into being a millionaire, or at least getting in the pathway of earning a six-figure salary. If you could make a six-figure salary in the tech sector and technology and getting into IT and getting into the stuff that Bob Wallace has got into, ask him, how many people have you helped facilitate other than your own family? Because we know you just appointed your son and got your son running some sort of energy technology company. But I'm talking about how many man-mans, how many Ray-Rays, how many little Pookies, how many little Nut-Nuts, how many little Peanuts, how many of those in our community have you helped to facilitate and move them on to at least making six-figure salaries or becoming a millionaire in the tech community? But many of them don't incorporate us into these developments. They don't incorporate it. They don't make it purposely. They don't do things purposely to push us into that direction, to make sure that these types of developments and projects are more inclusive in reference to making sure that Black entrepreneurship, that minority ownership, has a stake in these projects downtown. It says, Baltimore, we are opposed to have the comeback of our generation. And in order to make that happen, we need a shared vision for our city's future. We've come a long way, and we still have a long way to go. I'm not sure what cup of tea these folks are drinking. I don't know what's in their coffee. But we are definitely not drinking the same brand. A broad effort to meet demands and increase safety and rethink reuses for unneeded office spaces is being led by the Mayor's Office in partnership with the Downtown Partnership, Baltimore Development Corporation, and here it is. You hear it, the BDC, the Greater Baltimore Committee, the GBC. Here it is again. I mean, these are the same pirates that continue to pillage the community, that continue to pillage the city of Baltimore, make Baltimore their play space. Waterfront Partnership, Live Baltimore. We know Live Baltimore. Live Baltimore, Visit Baltimore, and others. And Scott said his administration is bringing together business and community organizations to develop a comprehensive plan aimed at stabilizing the region's economic engine while paving the way for sustainable change. How much of that change down there is going to include affordable housing? Well, we know easily, tens of thousands of people just recently registered for the need of having affordable housing. How many of those options, and they hate using that word, affordable options, affordable housing. It's mixed use. It's mixed use. They tell you that that's more inclusive. That's more of a harmonic design. That's more of a harmonic community. Homogenous community. That's more of a homogenous community. Having it being a mixed use community. And you'll never know, they'll say things. You'll never know when you have a poor person and a middle class and a rich person all living together. Because we don't call it affordable housing. We call it mixed use communities. But again, the need in the city with a median income of $26,000 is greater than technically the needs of what's being provided right now, or what the resources are being provided, to the needs of of these minorities. Really and truly, they're minorities. They're minorities. The majority of the city is suffering. The majority of the city has issues. The majority of the city is living check by check. The majority of the city is dealing with something within the community, whether it's addiction, whether it's trying to rear their children, whether it's public safety, whether it's failing schools. And it says momentum already exists for a downtown renaissance. Why is there momentum for a downtown renaissance? I don't understand this. And most of the stuff closed up. Like, for instance, the Holiday Inn closed up down there because there's no money down there. The ballpark is, contrary to belief in them signing this contract, D'Angelo's family is still really wanting to move Oreo Stadium because just people are not coming. People don't feel safe. You had a family just recently go to the Ravens game and had their car stolen. People don't feel safe. You can't drive into Baltimore without losing your car, without possibly losing your life, without possibly being robbed, without possibly going into, you got to watch your back. So these folks are not coming, they're not coming into Baltimore like that. And it'll be a while before you change the tone and the mentality of what people think about Baltimore before Baltimore will transition into anything that resembles a city that people want to come and spend their dollars to. And I used to say this all the time. If I'm going on vacation, what do you think I'm going to choose? Now I wouldn't choose Florida anymore, but at a time, what would you choose? Would you rather go to Hollywood, California, Las Vegas, Disney World, Virginia's for lovers, or come to Baltimore? Be more Murderland, Bodymore. What would you rather choose to go to? And for white folks that are spending their money in reference to the time off and going out on vacation and doing stuff in the process, man, they ain't thinking about, what you come see Fort Meade, then after Fort Meade, stay downtown. You can't really go too much elsewhere. If you veer off a little bit, or God knows if it's a holiday, God forbid, don't come during Easter when all our young folks congregate downtown and meet up downtown. I mean, what would you choose? Would you rather go to Jamaica or go to Baltimore? Would you rather go to the Bahamas or go to Baltimore? Hell, would you rather go to Texas and go see something in Texas? Well, at least everybody that's down in Texas is at least carrying and concealing. At least you got a fighting chance. Maybe one of them Texans will keep you safe. What would you rather do? Would you rather go to New Orleans or Baltimore? I don't know. I know if I have vacation, I'm looking at getting out the city. If I have vacation and money to go on vacation, I ain't staying in Baltimore. I ain't going to no Fort Meade. I'm getting the hell out of Dodge. But it says that momentum already exists for a downtown renaissance. The Downtown Rise website says they got a website with more than $6.5 billion in development earmarked for downtown by 2028. And we can't even get a few $1,000s to fix some potholes. We can't get a few $1,000s to deal with the rats. We can't get a few $1,000s just to make sure our neighborhoods are safe. People aren't congregating in the corridors, and you're able to patronize some of these businesses in our corridors, in our communities. But they're going to make sure downtown is safe. You won't come down there and spend twice as much money as you would spend on anything downtown. And I told y'all the story. The lady who said, from Bentlow Homes, and she told us that nobody listens to the poor and marginalized community. Nobody listens to the pains of our community. When the lady said, I tried to be a part of this new world that you guys are creating. I took my grandbabies. I took my grandbabies down to the Inner Harbor And I thought I'd take them, go get some ice cream, get them an ice cream cone. And I get up to the stand and I see all these wonderful flavors and all these, many options. And I asked the man how much was a cone, a single scoop on a cone, on a cone. Ma'am, it's about $6. She said, I quickly went back home and waited for the Mr. Softy man to come so I could buy me a $1.25 ice cream for my babies, for my grandbabies. Because she couldn't afford that. She couldn't afford that. Everything that's down there in reference to eatery, in reference to amenities, in reference to parking, in reference to transportation, everything down there was way too much for this poor woman who probably lives under $26,000 a year, who probably gets food stamps for her grandbaby, who's living in subsidized apartments in Bentlow Homes at the time. And they were getting ready to they used the feasibility study. Now, where the line encroached at for the empowerment zone, not the opportunity zone, we're talking about going back, where the line was in reference to the opportunity zones, where the line was in reference to the economic zones, Bentlow Homes technically was on the other side. So technically, in order for them to qualify for any type of tax benefits and any other additional resources, in order for them to qualify, they technically had to be in an economic zone in order to do it. And what they did was, and they decided was, City Council and them decided at the time was to make an exception. That only a few blocks away was this Bentlow Homes that the feasibility study could be used on, because technically that whole area down there in Harbor East, that whole area down there where Harbor East is, all of that stuff was considered to be industrial. And because that whole area down there was considered to be industrial, what ended up happening was they couldn't use, there's really no economics to go by. You can't say what the average income is of industrial area that has no residents living in the area. So what they did was they added Bentlow Homes to the feasibility study to say, oh, the median income of this area is less than $12,000 a year. So it qualifies as a part of the empowerment zone to get at additional opportunities, tax benefits, taxes in lieu of financing, or financing in lieu of taxes, taxes in lieu of financing. It qualifies. So they use the backs of these people, these marginalized people in the housing projects, to basically get at these tax breaks. And then I came up there and testified and said, did you just hear that lady's story about that she can't even be included in this new metropolis, this new oasis, this new world that you're building around her? I said, and the least that y'all can do is maybe go back to Bentlow Homes, because she talked about also, some of the needs of the community, and several other advocates agreed about the fact that because they were using Bentlow Homes, Michael Bealy and them, Bealy, whatever his damn name was, they were using the feasibility study of Bentlow Homes, that the least they could do is go back and at least be kind to these people and maybe install some energy efficient windows. Maybe clean up the drug-infested park, and the park that has no more rubber matting on the jungle gym, that the swings have no more matting. The matting's been deteriorated and broken away years ago. At least they could do is maybe build a new park for the children, maybe paint some of the houses up, put a little bit of money into these folks' homes to show some damn gratitude for basically using them in order for you to get tax breaks, to build your $1 billion entity downtown. And there's people that are down there living off of the spoils that don't even know that. They moved in thinking, oh, what a great thing. Oh, look at this, man. I got this luxury apartment. Yeah, you should see. I got granite this, and my parquet floor is this. And man, I can see out in the harbor, see the boats. And man, and they say in a couple of years, I'll be able to swim in this waters, man. And all of y'all that are down there, all these folks that are down there that are taking advantage of this, don't realize that you're taking advantage of this on the backs of poor people. on the backs of somebody's grandmama, who in some cases that grandmama's probably raising their children because she had no other choice to raise those grandbabies because probably her daughter is crack addicted or probably in jail or maybe murdered or dead because of the violence in our community, because we're dealing with issues, the residual effects of poverty, impoverishment. And like I told y'all, Aristotle said that poverty is the parent to crime and revolution. But these folks that are living down there are living off of the backs of these poor families, these poor marginalized families that technically shouldn't have been included because the lines were drawn that said that over on this side is one zone, over on this side there is no zone. But they were so desperate to get into the bed with Exelon, a company that technically, because of federal regulations, technically because of the fact that they had merged with Constellation Energy, technically because of the regulators, the federal regulators said that they had no other choice but to move their headquarters to Baltimore and to consolidate things and get rid of their headquarters in Chicago. So that means they were forced to do it. They had no other choice. And because they were this large company, the federal government figured, hey, this is the choice and decision that we made. And technically, economically, as big as you are, there should be no problem with you moving your corporate headquarters down there. So if they wanted to move their headquarters there, if Michael Beasley and them wanted to move and transform that whole Harbor East area, they should have did it with their dime and not off of the backs of these poor people. And these are the people that you continue to support. People like Stephanie Rowland Blake, who went on and she's fulfilling herself. All up, wrapped up in the DNC. Looks like she's a product for a Weight Watchers commercial. Look like she should be doing Weight Watchers commercials. She got more of a transformation than Marie Osmond does. Running around there, looking like a stick. And these are people that came and basically moved themselves politically off of the back, the pain, the suffering of the people of Baltimore, black and brown people of Baltimore. And then I'm wrong. When will the community get upset? When will the community not stand for this? Any other community, it was any other group in Baltimore City that was being more marginalized, that was being more attacked, that was being more unsupported. Any other community would have been chastised these politicians, these so-called black politicians. They would have been chastised them. They would have been pushed them out of our community. And I'm the bad guy. I'm wrong for speaking out. I'm wrong for telling the truth. I'm wrong for coming on here and trying to get y'all to understand that we should be shunning these people. We should be getting these people up out of our faces and up out of our political spaces. But all y'all do is keep patronizing these folks, loving up on these folks. Oh, he's Baltimore's son. And Brandon is so much Baltimore's son. Then explain to me, why is he continuing to do the bidding for downtown? And anything that gets done uptown ain't uptown in our community. Where do you see the transformation? Where do you see the Baltimore rise? Where do you see the uptown rise at? We get ready to wrap up here. Only got 5 more minutes left here. We get ready to wrap up here. But I'm trying to understand that. Where do you see that type of investment, that type of consideration, that type of love, financially, supportively, in our communities? We get crumbs while they get everything that they want downtown. These communities continue to get catered to. We get absolutely nothing. And then you get somebody who gets involved in this because all of her life she's seen this marginalization. And then as she gets up and starts to do something in her community, and way before she started a nonprofit, she gets out there and she's a revolutionary person. She gets out there and she starts doing stuff in the community and she starts helping families and she shuts down Murder Mall, Madison Park, and she advocates for the people people say, well, what's her qualifications? Well, why don't she run for city council? You know, I don't think she's qualified. I love Brandon. I love Sheila. I sat there, like I said, at that contrived Fox 45, Sheila Dixon, David Smith town hall. And when I exposed all this information in reference to the Gun Trace Task Force, the closing of the PAL centers, all the economic issues that we went through at the time, the bedfellows, stealing from the children or stealing from the poor, or however you want to call it. And she'll tell you, oh, well, the difference was that if I had included it, if I had just filled out an ethics form, I wouldn't have been in trouble if I had just filled out an ethics form. Then again, the stories of her and her team, her defense team, bullying the city. Oh, I'll just go to file appeal and I'll keep it tied up and I'll hold the seat and I'll run for re-election. And while I'm going through appeals, I'll continue to fight this out and I'll hold up this whole process. And then when she finally gets the deal that she wanted to keep her pension, to be able to come back after several years, to get a light sentence, because she got a light sentence. She got off like a fat rat. But other people have seen jail time and other shit in the process of doing unethical shit. She basically got off big time. She got a slap on the wrist. Got her furs back, got her pension back, went off into the sunset only to come back. To leave Dodge City and come back. And when I explained all this stuff to folks, you still have people saying, well, I'm still voting for her. I love Sheila. I'm still voting for her. So you'd rather support a self-fulfilling, self-desiring Jezebel that only really cares about the developers like Ronald Liscombe and all these other freaking developers out there that continue to just live off of the spoils of the taxpayers in the city. That's who you choose over choosing somebody that's going to do right by the people and finally do something about fixing and transforming these marginalized communities. But you're going to be in love with Sheila. I tell you, if this is not Babylon, if this is not a city and a process of falling before God, and then use God. Oh, I went and seek God and had to seek counsel and I did community service. I understand things now. I understand things more. Come on now. And I apologize. Well, what you apologize for? Ask Sheila Dixon, what is she apologizing for? Ask her if she's really sincere about apologizing. She'll come out and say, I apologize for taking the gift cards from the kids. And admit what she did. But she can't do that. She don't want to do that. So, but we're going to wrap this up, family. I love y'all. If y'all want to, support $ Urban City News, $ Urban City News. And again, $ Urban City News. And if you want to, you could also send it through PayPal. That's at Urban City News through PayPal as well. Man, we got to do better. We really have to do better, family. We have no other choice. We got to do better. We can't keep allowing this stuff to keep going on in our community like this, honestly. So, love you.